The transport shuttle Meridian's hope shuddered as it descended through the thick atmosphere of Zirian Prime. Captain Marcus Chun watched the alien landscape unfold below through the viewport, noting the twisted spires of crystalline rock formations that jutted from the planet's surface like broken teeth. The planet had been designated as a diplomatic meeting ground between the Terran Federation and the Dracari Consortium, a species that resembled the ancient dragons from Earth's mythology, complete with scales, wings, and a reputation for being the galaxy's most feared predators. Marcus adjusted his diplomatic uniform and checked his briefcase one final time. Inside were the trade agreements that could secure humanity's expansion into the Outer Rim territories. The negotiations had been in progress for months, conducted through holographic communications, but this face-to-face meeting would seal the deal. The Dracari had insisted on meeting in person, claiming they could only trust beings whose scent they could analyze directly. The shuttle touched down on the designated landing pad with a gentle thud. Through the reinforced windows, Marcus could see the massive structure that served as the meeting facility. It was a bizarre fusion of human and Dracari architecture, with smooth metal curves blending into organic-looking ridges and spires. The building seemed to breathe in the alien sunlight, its surface shifting between metallic silver and deep emerald green. "Captain Chun," came the voice of Lieutenant Sarah Rodriguez from the pilot's seat. "The atmospheric readings are stable. Temperature is within human tolerance, though it's a bit warm. The Dracari delegation is already waiting inside." Marcus nodded and gathered his materials. He had spent weeks studying Dracari culture and customs. They were a proud species, viewing most other races as potential prey rather than equals. The fact that they had agreed to negotiate with humans at all was considered a diplomatic miracle. Their society was built around strength, honor, and the concept of worthy adversaries. They respected courage above all else and had little patience for what they perceived as weakness. The airlock cycled open with a soft hiss, and Marcus stepped onto the surface of Zirian Prime. The air was thick and humid, carrying strange scents of sulfur and something vaguely floral. In the distance, he could hear the haunting calls of native creatures echoing across the rocky landscape. The gravity was slightly heavier than Earth normal, making each step feel more deliberate. As he approached the main entrance, the massive doors slid open to reveal the interior of the facility. The ceiling soared overhead, easily 100 feet high, designed to accommodate the Dracari's impressive size. Bioluminescent strips ran along the walls, casting an eerie blue-green glow throughout the space. The air recycling system hummed quietly, maintaining an atmosphere suitable for both species. Marcus's footsteps echoed as he walked down the central corridor toward the main conference chamber. He passed several smaller rooms, each equipped with monitoring equipment and communication arrays. The entire facility had been constructed specifically for this meeting, representing a significant investment from both governments. The conference chamber doors were enormous, crafted from some kind of dark metal that seemed to absorb light. As they slid open, Marcus got his first glimpse of the Dracari delegation. 3 massive figures stood at the far end of the room, their reptilian forms both magnificent and terrifying. Each stood nearly 12 feet tall, with powerful limbs, wings folded against their backs, and elongated heads filled with razor-sharp teeth. The lead Dracari, distinguished by the silver markings on his dark green scales, stepped forward. This was Counselor Vexthar, the chief negotiator for the consortium. His golden eyes fixed on Marcus with an intensity that made the human feel like prey being studied by a predator. "Human Marcus Chun." Vexthar's voice rumbled through the chamber's translation system. "You arrive as promised. We are pleased that your species shows the courage to meet us in person rather than hiding behind technology." Marcus straightened his shoulders and walked confidently toward the negotiation table, a massive slab of polished stone that could accommodate both species. "Counselor Vexthar, it's an honor to meet you. The Terran Federation values directness in our dealings, just as the Dracari Consortium does." The other 2 Dracari flanked their leader, their nostrils flaring as they sampled Marcus's scent. One of them, with bronze-colored scales, growled softly and exchanged a look with Vexthar. The human couldn't understand their rapid, hissing communication, but he noticed their postures had shifted subtly. Vexthar's head tilted slightly, his serpentine neck allowing for a range of motion that seemed impossible. "We detect an interesting aroma from you, human. There is iron in your scent, mixed with salt. It speaks of recent sustenance." Marcus realized they were picking up on traces of his lunch from earlier in the day. He had eaten a rare steak sandwich aboard the shuttle, knowing it might be his last Earth-style meal for several days. The Dracary's enhanced senses were apparently sensitive enough to detect even residual traces of blood from his food. The bronze-scaled Dracary stepped closer, his massive form casting a shadow over Marcus. "The scent grows stronger, human. Your kind consumes the flesh of other creatures. We know this. But there's something more. The blood scent is fresh, recent." Marcus felt the tension in the room ratchet up several notches. The Dracary were natural predators, and the scent of blood could trigger aggressive responses. He could see their pupils dilating, their claws extending slightly from their fingertips. Even Vexthar's diplomatic composure seemed to be wavering as his nostrils flared wider. The third Dracary, smaller than the others but with distinctive red markings along his crest, began to pace in a wide circle around Marcus. His movements were fluid and predatory, like a cat stalking its prey. "Perhaps the human seeks to provoke us," he hissed, "to test our restraint with the scent of fresh kill." Marcus realized the situation was rapidly deteriorating. The carefully planned diplomatic meeting was about to turn into something much more dangerous. The Dracary's predatory instincts were being triggered by something as simple as the lingering aroma of his lunch. He needed to defuse the situation quickly before their instincts overwhelmed their diplomatic training. Vexthar's golden eyes had taken on an almost hypnotic quality, fixed intently on Marcus as if he were sizing up prey. "Human, you'll explain this scent. In our culture, the presence of fresh blood indicates either recent combat or preparation for it. Which is your intention?" The chamber fell silent except for the soft hum of the air recycling system and the subtle sound of three apex predators breathing. Marcus stood at the center of their attention, knowing that his next words could determine not only the success of the negotiations, but possibly his own survival. The Dracary were struggling with instincts that had been honed over millions of years of evolution, and he was the trigger for those ancient responses. Marcus took a deep breath, tasting the recycled air and the subtle musk of the alien predators surrounding him. This was the moment that would define not just his mission, but potentially the future relationship between humanity and the Dracary Consortium. Everything depended on how he handled the next few crucial minutes. Marcus looked calmly at the three towering predators surrounding him, their reptilian features tense with barely controlled hunting instincts. The scent they were detecting had transformed the diplomatic chamber into something resembling a predator's den, with him as the potential prey. Instead of showing fear or attempting to flee, Marcus did something that surprised even himself. He smiled. "Relax," he said in a steady, conversational tone. "It's only my lunch." The effect was immediate and dramatic. All three Dracary froze in place, their predatory movements stopping abruptly. Vexthar's elongated head snapped back as if he had been physically struck. The bronze-scaled warrior actually stumbled backward a step, his massive claws scraping against the stone floor. The red-crested Dracary stopped pacing entirely, his serpentine neck craning forward in disbelief. "Lunch." Vexthar's voice carried a note of confusion that the translation system struggled to convey properly. The word seemed to hang in the air between them, heavy with implications that the Dracary were still processing. Marcus reached into his jacket pocket, moving slowly and deliberately to avoid triggering any defensive responses. He pulled out a small wrap package that contained the remainder of his steak sandwich. The aroma of cooked meat and residual blood became noticeably stronger as he unwrapped it, causing all three Dracary to inhale sharply. "Earth cuisine," Marcus explained matter-of-factly, holding up the sandwich. Beef, specifically from cattle. They're domesticated animals we raise for food. I had this about an hour before landing. He took a casual bite, chewing thoughtfully while maintaining eye contact with Vexthar. Would you like to try some? The meat is cooked medium rare, which means it retains some of the natural blood content. The silence that followed was profound. The three Dracari exchanged glances that conveyed volumes of unspoken communication. Their earlier aggressive postures had been replaced by something Marcus couldn't quite identify. It wasn't exactly confusion, but rather a fundamental recalibration of their understanding. The bronze-scaled warrior was the first to speak, his voice carrying a mixture of bewilderment and something that might have been respect. You consume the blood of your prey without performing the ritual hunt, without testing your strength against theirs. Marcus swallowed his bite and nodded casually. We stopped hunting for survival thousands of years ago. Now we raise livestock specifically for food production. Cattle are bred to be docile and well-fed, which produces better meat quality. The blood you're detecting is really just iron-rich proteins that enhance the flavor. Vexthar's golden eyes had taken on a different quality now, studying Marcus with what appeared to be scientific curiosity rather than predatory intent. Your species has mastered the concept of prey so completely that you no longer need to hunt them? That's one way to put it, Marcus replied, taking another bite. We've industrialized food production. A single human farmer can now raise enough cattle to feed thousands of people. It's much more efficient than hunting wild game. The red-crested Dracari, who had introduced himself as war singer HFY, moved closer but with none of his earlier predatory grace. His approach was now cautious, almost scholarly. This is why your scent confused our instincts. You carry the aroma of fresh kill, but without the pheromones of recent combat or the tension of active hunting. Marcus nodded, appreciating their quick understanding. Exactly. To me, this is just food. There's no emotional or spiritual significance to it beyond nutrition and taste preference. He gestured to the sandwich. I chose the rare preparation because I enjoy the flavor and texture. It has nothing to do with dominance or conquest. Vexthar's massive form settled into what Marcus recognized as a thinking posture, his head lowering slightly while his tail curled around his feet. In Dracari culture, the consumption of blood is reserved for significant occasions. Victory celebrations, coming-of-age ceremonies, challenges of dominance. To encounter such a scent in a diplomatic setting triggered our deepest instincts. I can understand that, Marcus said, wrapping up the remainder of his sandwich. If I had known about the sensitivity, I would have chosen something different for lunch. Perhaps vegetables or synthetic proteins. The bronze warrior, Commander Zarthek, made a sound that the translation system rendered as a chuckle. Synthetic proteins? You have progressed so far beyond the hunt that you can create the essence of meat without the creature. Among other things, yes, Marcus confirmed. We have extensive agricultural systems that produce plant-based foods, laboratory-grown meats that are identical to natural products at the cellular level, and completely synthetic nutrients designed for long-term space travel. Food scarcity hasn't been a significant issue for most human populations in over 2 centuries. The three Dracari began what appeared to be a rapid consultation in their native language, their voices dropping to hissing whispers that the translation system couldn't process. Marcus waited patiently, noting how their body language had completely transformed from the aggressive postures they had displayed minutes earlier. Warsinger HFY turned back to Marcus first. Human, this raises questions about your species that we had not considered. If you no longer hunt for survival, how do you maintain your predatory edge? How do you test your worthiness as beings? Marcus considered the question carefully. We've channeled those instincts into other areas. Competition in sports, intellectual challenges, exploration of dangerous frontiers. We hunt for knowledge, for artistic expression, for technological advancement. Our predatory instincts have evolved into curiosity and ambition. Fascinating, Vexthar murmured. You have taken the drive to overcome and redirected it toward abstract concepts rather than physical prey. His golden eyes focused intently on Marcus. This explains much about human behavior that had puzzled our analysts. Commander Zarthek moved to the conference table and activated a holographic display that showed various human settlements and activities. We observed your expansion patterns and assumed they were driven by resource scarcity or territorial disputes, as would be natural for any predatory species. But if you have transcended basic survival needs, then our expansion is driven by curiosity and the desire for new challenges. Marcus finished. We explore because we want to understand, to experience, to grow as a species. The resources we find are useful, but they're not the primary motivation. The implications seem to ripple through the Drackery delegation like waves. Marcus could see them reassessing not just this particular negotiation, but their entire understanding of humanity as a species. What had begun as a simple diplomatic meeting over trade agreements had become a fundamental exchange of cultural perspective. Vexthar straightened to his full impressive height, but his posture now conveyed respect rather than intimidation. Human Marcus Chun, you have given us much to consider. Your calm response to our instinctive challenge, combined with this revelation about your species' relationship with sustenance, suggests that humans may be more worthy of partnership than we initially believed. Marcus finished putting away his lunch and straightened his diplomatic uniform. I hope this understanding can serve as a foundation for productive negotiations. The trade agreements we're here to discuss could benefit both our species significantly. Indeed, Vexthar agreed. But first, we must request a recess to discuss these new insights with our council. The perspective you have provided changes several fundamental assumptions about human nature and motivations. Marcus nodded diplomatically. Of course, I understand this is a significant shift in understanding. Take all the time you need. As the Drackery began to file out of the conference chamber, Warsinger Kawait paused beside Marcus. Human, one final question. If your species no longer hunts for survival, what do you consider your greatest challenge? Marcus thought for a moment, then smiled. Understanding beings like yourselves. Learning to communicate across the vast differences between species while finding common ground for cooperation. It's the ultimate puzzle. KYT serpentine features arranged themselves into what Marcus realized was probably a smile. Perhaps, human Marcus Chun, we are not so different after all. The break in negotiations lasted 3 hours, during which Marcus explored the fascinating diplomatic facility. The building's design incorporated elements from dozens of different species, creating a unique architectural fusion that somehow felt both alien and familiar. He spent time in the observation deck, watching the native creatures of Zirian Prime through reinforced windows while reviewing his notes on Drackery cultural practices. When the conference reconvened, Marcus noticed immediately that the atmosphere had changed dramatically. The 3 Drackery entered the chamber with a different energy entirely. Where before they had moved with the calculated grace of predators, they now carried themselves with the bearing of equals, approaching a worthy discussion. Vexthar activated the central holographic display, which showed a 3-dimensional map of known space with trade routes highlighted in different colors. Human Marcus Chun, our council has reached several important conclusions during our deliberations. Your species presents us with a paradigm we had not previously encountered. Marcus took his seat at the negotiation table, noting that the Drackery had repositioned themselves in a more collaborative arrangement rather than the intimidating formation they had used earlier. I'm interested to hear your thoughts, Counselor. Commander Zarthek leaned forward, his massive claws clicking against the stone table surface. In all our encounters with other spacefaring species, we have found them driven by familiar motivations. Resource acquisition, territorial expansion, defense against threats, or the pursuit of dominance. These are patterns we understand because they mirror our own evolutionary development. Warsinger KYTHRAC continued the thought seamlessly. But humans appear to be motivated by abstract concepts that transcend basic survival needs. This suggests a level of evolutionary sophistication that we find intriguing. Marcus nodded thoughtfully. I appreciate that assessment, though I should point out that we haven't completely transcended our basic nature. We still compete, we still have conflicts, and we still have individuals and groups motivated by traditional survival concerns. We've just expanded our definition of what survival means. Elaborate on this concept, Vexthar requested, his golden eyes focusing intently on Marcus. Marcus stood and moved to the holographic display, gesturing to the various human colonies shown scattered across the galaxy. For early humans, survival meant finding food, shelter, and safety from predators. As we developed civilization, survival began to include cultural preservation, technological advancement, and social progress. Now that we can meet our basic physical needs, we define survival in terms of growth, exploration, and the continuation of human consciousness and culture across the universe. He highlighted several human settlements that appeared to be in particularly challenging environments. These colonies aren't established for strategic resources or defensive positions. They're there because humans wanted to see if we could adapt to those environments, what we might learn from the challenge, and how the experience might change us as a species. Zarthek's bronze scales seemed to shimmer as he processed this information. You deliberately seek out dangerous and challenging environments not for conquest, but for the experience itself. Among other reasons, yes, Marcus confirmed. We have colonies in the gravitational wells of black holes, settlements on planets with atmospheric pressures that would crush most species, and research stations in the vacuum of deep space. Some of these locations actually cost us more resources than they produce, but we maintain them because of what they teach us. KYTH made a sound that the translator rendered as thoughtful humming. This explains the anomalies in human behavior that our intelligence services reported. Your species' willingness to take on challenges that offer no obvious strategic advantage. Your tendency to help other species even when it provides no clear benefit. Your fascination with phenomena that have no practical application. Marcus returned to his seat, encouraged by their obvious interest in understanding human motivations. Those behaviors make sense when you realize that for humans, knowledge and experience have become survival resources. We've learned that understanding and cooperation often provide better long-term security than dominance and isolation. Vexthar manipulated the holographic display to show the proposed trade routes between human and Dracary space. This perspective reframes our entire approach to these negotiations. We initially viewed this agreement as a potential strategic alliance between predatory species with compatible hunting territories. But now you're seeing it differently? Marcus asked. Indeed, Vexthar confirmed. If humans are motivated by knowledge acquisition and challenge-seeking, then this partnership offers benefits we had not previously considered. Your species' experience with environmental adaptation could prove valuable to our own expansion efforts. Zarthek activated a secondary display showing detailed scans of several worlds in Dracary space. We have encountered planets that would be suitable for colonization if we could solve certain environmental challenges. Our approach has been to modify the environments to suit our needs, but this is often resource-intensive and sometimes unsuccessful. Marcus studied the planetary data with interest. What kind of challenges are you facing? Atmospheric composition difficulties, primarily, KYTH explained. Several worlds have atmospheres that are close to suitable, but contain trace elements that are toxic to our physiology. Our solution has been large-scale atmospheric processing, but the costs are enormous. Marcus nodded, recognizing similar challenges humanity had faced. We've developed several approaches to that problem. Biological filters using engineered organisms, selective atmospheric scrubbing systems, and in some cases, temporary genetic modifications that allow adaptation to specific environmental toxins. The three Dracary exchanged glances that conveyed surprised interest. Vexthar leaned forward with obvious curiosity. You modify your own biology to adapt to environments rather than modifying the environments to suit your biology? When it's practical, yes, Marcus confirmed. It's usually more efficient and less disruptive to the existing ecosystem. We've learned that preserving natural environments often provides unexpected benefits down the line. Zarthek's massive head, tilted in a gesture Marcus was beginning to recognize as deep thought. This approach had not occurred to our scientists. We viewed environmental adaptation as a sign of weakness, a failure to impose our will upon the universe. It's actually a different kind of strength, Marcus explained. The ability to change ourselves when circumstances require it, rather than being locked into a single approach. Flexibility and adaptation can be more powerful than rigid dominance. KYTH activated another display showing various Drakri military and exploration vessels. Your species has also demonstrated technological innovations that puzzle our engineers. Your ships utilize energy sources and propulsion methods that seem inefficient by traditional standards, yet achieve remarkable performance. Marcus smiled, recognizing where this was heading. Let me guess. We prioritize versatility and adaptability over raw power. Precisely, Vexthar confirmed. A Drakri vessel is designed to dominate any threat it encounters. Maximum firepower, maximum protection, maximum intimidation factor. But human ships seem designed to handle unknown situations and adapt to changing circumstances. That's because we expect to encounter things we've never seen before, Marcus explained. When your primary goal is exploration and understanding, you need ships that can handle surprises. Raw power is useful, but it's not much help when you're trying to navigate a stellar phenomenon that doesn't match any known physics, or when you need to establish communication with a species that communicates through methods you never imagined. The conversation was interrupted by an alert signal from the facility's communication system. Vexthar acknowledged the signal and received a brief message in rapid Drakri. His expression became more serious as he processed the information. It appears we have an opportunity to test these philosophical differences in a practical manner, Vexthar announced. Our sensor arrays have detected what appears to be a distress signal from an unknown source approximately 6 hours away at maximum speed. Marcus felt his pulse quicken with interest. Unknown source. The signal pattern doesn't match any known species in our databases, Zarthek explained. It could be a previously undiscovered civilization or possibly survivors from a crashed vessel using unfamiliar technology. KYTHRAC's predatory instincts seem to be engaging again, but in a different way than before. Standard Drakri protocol would be to approach with maximum caution and overwhelming force, prepared for any potential threat. Marcus stood, his expression showing the first real excitement Vexthar had seen from him during the entire negotiation. And human protocol would be to approach with maximum curiosity and adaptability, prepared for any potential discovery. Vexthar's golden eyes gleamed with what Marcus was learning to recognize as anticipation. Perhaps it is time to see how our different approaches might complement each other in practice. The combined fleet that departed Zirian Prime an hour later was unlike anything seen before in known space. The Drakri battle cruiser Talon of Dominance flew in formation with Marcus's diplomatic shuttle, now augmented by additional human vessels that had been monitoring the negotiations from a discreet distance. The contrast between the two design philosophies was striking even from the outside. The Drakri cruiser was a magnificent display of engineered intimidation, its hull resembling the elongated body of some cosmic predator. Weapon ports and armor plating covered its surface in patterns that seemed both functional and artistic. Its very presence seemed to announce its capability for destruction to anyone who might observe it. The human vessels appeared almost modest by comparison, their hulls smooth and utilitarian with modular sections that could be reconfigured for different missions. Where the Drakri ship projected power, the human ships projected adaptability. Marcus had explained that the lead vessel, Scientific Endeavor, was technically a research ship that could be reconfigured for combat, exploration, diplomacy, or rescue operations within hours. Marcus stood on the bridge of the Talon of Dominance, having been invited to observe Drakkari operational procedures firsthand. The bridge was a cathedral of predatory efficiency, with multiple levels allowing the crew to monitor threats from every possible angle. The central command position elevated the ship's captain above all other stations, providing both tactical advantage and symbolic dominance. Captain Vorthicay, a massive Drakkari with distinctive silver-blue scales, commanded the bridge with the absolute authority that came naturally to his species. His crew moved with military precision, their actions coordinated through a combination of spoken orders and subtle body language that Marcus found fascinating to observe. Human Marcus. Vorthicay's voice rumbled through the bridge. Your vessels maintained formation well despite their unusual design. We had expected them to struggle with the precision required for military operations. Marcus smiled, watching the tactical display that showed all vessels in the combined fleet. Our ships are designed for cooperation rather than dominance, Captain. The pilots are used to adapting their behavior to work with unfamiliar partners. Vexthar, who had taken a position near the command station, gestured to the main view screen. The distress signal's source should become visible within the next few minutes. Our long-range sensors indicate it is indeed a vessel of unknown configuration. As if summoned by his words, the view screen flickered to life with an image that made everyone on the bridge pause in surprise. The vessel ahead of them was clearly artificial, but its design defied easy categorization. It appeared to be constructed from crystalline materials that refracted light in spectacular patterns, creating a hull that seemed to shift between solid matter and pure energy. Commander Zarthek, monitoring the sensor stations, reported his findings with obvious confusion. The vessel measures approximately 400 meters in length, but our scans cannot determine its mass or internal structure. The hull materials are unlike anything in our databases. Marcus activated his communicator to contact the scientific endeavor. Captain Williams, what are your sensors telling you about that ship? Captain Sarah Williams' voice came through clearly. It's fascinating, Marcus. The hull appears to be composed of some kind of programmable matter that can shift between different states. Our linguistic analysis computers are working on the distress signal, but the mathematical patterns are incredibly complex. Vorthicay turned to Marcus with interest. Your species attempts to communicate with unknown civilizations through mathematical analysis? Among other methods, Marcus confirmed. Mathematics tends to be universal, so it's often our starting point for establishing communication with unfamiliar intelligence. KYDHRAC moved to the communication station. Drakkari protocol would be to establish our superiority first, then attempt communication from a position of strength. Marcus nodded thoughtfully. Both approaches have merit. Your method ensures safety and establishes clear boundaries. Ours prioritizes information gathering and relationship building. Perhaps we could try a combined approach. Vexthar's golden eyes showed keen interest. Elaborate. Your ships maintain a defensive formation that demonstrates capability without appearing immediately threatening, Marcus suggested. Meanwhile, my people attempt to establish communication using non-aggressive protocols. If the unknown vessel responds positively, we proceed with diplomatic contact. If it responds aggressively, your ships are already in position to protect everyone. Captain Vorthicay considered this proposal while monitoring the tactical displays. This strategy allows for both security and diplomacy. It has merit. The combined fleet adjusted its formation accordingly, with the Drakkari vessels taking protective positions while the human ships moved closer to attempt communication. Marcus watched the process unfold with fascination, noting how the two different command structures adapted to work together despite their fundamental differences in approach. Marcus, Captain Williams' voice came through the communicator again, this time with noticeable excitement. We're getting a response to our mathematical greetings. The unknown vessel is transmitting what appears to be geometric proofs, but using principles that are completely unfamiliar to us. Vexthar moved closer to Marcus, his massive presence somehow reassuring rather than intimidating. Your scientists are excited by concepts they do not understand? Absolutely, Marcus confirmed. Unknown mathematical principles could represent entirely new ways of understanding reality. It's like finding a new color that you've never seen before. Zarthek made that rumbling sound that Marcus had learned indicated amusement. And this is why you seek out dangerous challenges. For the possibility of discovering something completely unprecedented. Before Marcus could respond, the view screen flickered again as the unknown vessel began to move. Its crystalline hull pulsed with internal light patterns that seemed to flow like liquid while maintaining solid form. The ship approached slowly, its movements somehow organic despite its artificial nature. Sensors indicate the vessel is generating some kind of field that our instruments cannot analyze, Vorthak reported. Recommend maintaining current distance until we can determine its purpose. Marcus opened a channel to the scientific endeavor. Sarah, are you detecting any hostile intent from their approach? Negative, Marcus. Their energy signatures suggest curiosity rather than aggression. I think they're trying to understand us just as much as we're trying to understand them. Suddenly, the bridge of the Talon of Dominance was filled with a sound unlike anything any of them had heard before. It wasn't exactly music, but it had rhythmic patterns that seemed to resonate with something fundamental in the listeners' minds. The crystalline vessel was broadcasting this sound across all frequencies. KYTHRAC's predatory instincts activated immediately, his claws extending as he took a defensive posture. Unknown acoustic assault detected. Recommend immediate countermeasures. Marcus held up a hand, his expression thoughtful as he listened to the strange harmonics. Wait, I don't think it's an attack. Listen to the patterns. The sound continued, complex harmonies layering upon each other in ways that seemed mathematically precise, yet emotionally resonant. Marcus realized that his heart rate was synchronizing with certain rhythmic elements, and he could see similar effects on the Drackery crew. It's a greeting, Marcus said suddenly. They're trying to establish communication through shared biological responses. The patterns are designed to create harmonious physiological reactions in different species. Vexthar's golden eyes widened in understanding. They're attempting to find common ground between our different biologies by identifying universal response patterns? Exactly, Marcus confirmed. It's brilliant, actually. Instead of trying to translate concepts between different minds, they're looking for experiences that transcend individual psychology. Captain Vorthak relaxed slightly, though he maintained his vigilant posture. If this is truly a greeting, how should we respond? Marcus smiled, feeling the excitement of first contact coursing through his system. I think we should show them what we've learned about cooperation between different species. Sarah, begin transmitting a harmony that combines human musical principles with the mathematical concepts you've been exchanging. Already working on it, Marcus. Stand by. Within moments, the human vessels began broadcasting their own complex harmonic response. But instead of simply answering the crystalline ship's greeting, they began weaving in elements that clearly represented both human and Drackery cultural signatures. The effect was immediate. The unknown vessel's light patterns shifted to incorporate colors and rhythms that seemed to mirror the combined response from the fleet. The sound patterns became more complex, incorporating elements that suggested recognition and approval. Vexthar moved to stand beside Marcus, their differences in size creating an odd, but somehow fitting partnership. Human, this approach to first contact would never have occurred to Drackery minds. Yet it appears to be succeeding where traditional methods might have failed. Marcus nodded, watching the light show playing across the crystalline hull of the unknown vessel. And without your protective formation, we might not have had the security to attempt such an experimental approach. Sometimes the best solutions come from combining different perspectives. Zarthek looked up from his sensor station, his bronze scales reflecting the lights from the displays. The unknown vessel is transmitting new information. Our combined response appears to have convinced them that we are a cooperative rather than competitive species grouping. The implications of that statement hung in the air between them. They had accomplished something unprecedented. Two species with fundamentally different approaches to existence had successfully worked together to achieve first contact with a completely unknown civilization. 3 days later, the combined human-Dracari fleet orbited a massive space station that defied every previous understanding of engineering and physics. The crystalline beings, who called themselves the Resonari, had constructed their home from materials that existed simultaneously in multiple dimensions. The station appeared solid from some angles, while seeming translucent from others, creating an effect that challenged the observer's perception of reality itself. Marcus stood in the Resonari's main greeting chamber, a space that somehow accommodated the needs of three completely different species. The chamber's walls could adjust their density and transparency to create comfortable environments for different physiological requirements. Humans breathed normally, Dracari enjoyed their preferred atmospheric pressure, and the Resonari existed in their natural state of controlled energy fluctuation. The lead Resonari, a being whose name translated roughly to harmony of frequencies, manifested as a shifting pattern of light and sound that somehow conveyed both wisdom and curiosity. Communication had evolved rapidly from mathematical principles to complex philosophical discussions about the nature of existence and consciousness. We have observed many species in our wanderings through the dimensional layers. Harmony of frequencies communicated through patterns that registered directly in the listener's minds. Most follow predictable patterns of expansion and dominance. But your cooperation presents a paradigm we find refreshing. Vexthar, who had adapted to the strange communication method with surprising ease, responded through harmonious thought patterns that the Resonari could interpret. We ourselves discovered this cooperation only recently. The humans taught us that strength can manifest in forms other than dominance. Marcus felt a deep sense of satisfaction as he watched the interaction unfold. The Dracari delegation had undergone a transformation during their 3 days of contact with the Resonari. Exposed to beings who existed in a state of perfect harmony between individual consciousness and collective intelligence, the predatory species had begun to understand cooperation as a form of evolution rather than weakness. Commander Zarthek, whose bronze scales now seemed to shimmer in response to the Resonari's energy fields, added his own thoughts to the communication. We have learned that hunting for knowledge yields richer prey than hunting for dominance. Harmony of frequencies pulsed with what Marcus had learned to recognize as amusement. An interesting metaphor. You have retained your predatory nature, but redirected it toward abstract rather than physical targets. Warsinger KYTHRAC moved closer to the central communication area, his movements now flowing with a grace that incorporated elements of both Dracari predatory stalking and the harmonic patterns the Resonari used for locomotion. The humans showed us that survival can mean adaptation rather than conquest. This explains much about your species' recent behavior. Another Resonari joined the conversation. This one identified itself as echo of ancient knowing and seemed to focus on historical analysis. We detected your expansion patterns and wondered why a clearly predatory species was pursuing exploration rather than territory acquisition. Marcus stepped forward, adding his own thoughts to the complex multi-species communication that was taking place. For humans, curiosity became our strongest survival trait. We discovered that understanding and cooperation often provide better long-term security than isolation and dominance. And we are learning that this approach yields benefits we never imagined, Vexthar added. The knowledge gained from this contact alone surpasses the value of conquering dozens of worlds. Echo of ancient knowing pulsed with excited energy patterns. This cooperative model presents possibilities we wish to explore further. We have encountered many civilizations in our dimensional travels, but few have achieved stable interspecies cooperation. Harmony of frequencies shifted into a configuration that seemed to encompass all the different beings in the chamber. We propose an exchange of knowledge and capabilities. The Resonari possess understanding of dimensional manipulation and consciousness harmonization. The Dracari bring perspective on biological adaptation and strength-based organization. The humans contribute experience with technological adaptation and curiosity-driven exploration. Marcus felt his pulse quicken with excitement. This was exactly the kind of opportunity that drove human exploration efforts. What kind of exchange are you envisioning? A collaborative research initiative. Echo of ancient knowing explained. We have identified phenomena throughout the galaxy that require investigation, but each presents challenges that would benefit from multiple perspectives and capabilities. Zarthek's predatory instincts engaged, but Marcus could see they were now focused on the challenge of unknown problems rather than potential threats. What manner of phenomena? The chamber around them shifted, walls becoming transparent to reveal a three-dimensional map of local space. Dozens of points were highlighted in different colors, each representing a different type of cosmic anomaly or unexplored region. Energy patterns that suggest artificial origin, but follow no known technological principles. Harmony of frequencies indicated one cluster of markers. Biological signatures from worlds that should not be capable of supporting life. Gravitational anomalies that appear to be intentionally created. And here, echo of ancient knowing highlighted another region. Entire star systems that phase in and out of normal space-time, suggesting either natural phenomena beyond our understanding or evidence of civilizations with capabilities that transcend our current knowledge. Vexthar studied the map with the intense focus that Marcus had learned indicated the counselor's highest level of interest. These investigations would require the combined capabilities of all three species to complete safely. Precisely. Harmony of frequencies confirmed. The Dracari provide security and biological resilience. The humans contribute adaptability and problem-solving creativity. The Resonari offer dimensional manipulation and energy consciousness interface capabilities. KYKHRAC made the rumbling sound that indicated deep satisfaction. This is worthy prey indeed. Challenges that test the limits of understanding rather than merely physical strength. Marcus realized that something unprecedented was happening. Three species with completely different evolutionary backgrounds and cultural approaches were finding common ground in their shared fascination with the unknown. The competitive drive that motivated both humans and Dracari was being channeled into collaborative exploration rather than conflict. There's one more element to consider, Marcus added. This collaboration would serve as a model for interspecies cooperation that could benefit the entire galaxy. If we can demonstrate that different evolutionary approaches can work together successfully, it might inspire other species to attempt similar partnerships. Echo of ancient knowing pulsed with excited anticipation. The human thinks in terms of cascading effects and long-term implications. This perspective adds value to the immediate benefits of the collaboration. Vexthar's golden eyes seemed to glow with their own inner light as he processed the full scope of what was being proposed. This initiative would transform the Dracari understanding of strength from individual dominance to collective capability. And it would give humans access to knowledge and phenomena that we could never investigate safely on our own, Marcus added. Harmony of frequencies began generating complex harmonic patterns that seemed to resonate through the chamber structure. Then, we are in agreement. The Resonari Council will prepare facilities for long-term collaborative research. Each species will contribute according to their capabilities and interests. The formal establishment of the three-species collaborative took another full day of detailed planning and cultural protocol development. By the end of that process, Marcus realized that the simple lunch incident that had begun this entire sequence of events had led to something that would reshape the political and scientific landscape of known space. As the combined fleet prepared to return to their respective territories with news of the new alliance, Marcus found himself standing beside Vexthar on the observation deck of the Resonari station. The view showed stars that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously, creating patterns of light that were both beautiful and scientifically fascinating. Human Marcus, Vexthar said in a contemplative tone. When you calmly explained that the blood scent was merely from your lunch, did you anticipate that it would lead to this? Marcus smiled, remembering the moment of tension in the conference chamber that now seemed like ancient history. Not specifically, no, but I've learned that honest communication about our differences often reveals unexpected commonalities. Your species' approach to existence continues to surprise us, Vexthar admitted. You treat challenges as opportunities rather than threats. And your species' strength and determination provides the foundation that makes it safe to pursue those opportunities, Marcus replied. Combined with the Resonari's understanding of consciousness and dimensional mechanics, we've created something that none of us could achieve alone. Vexthar's serpentine neck allowed him to turn and look directly at Marcus. The galaxy will be a different place because of this alliance. Marcus nodded, watching the multidimensional stars and thinking about the implications of what they had accomplished. Different and hopefully better. We've proven that cooperation can be stronger than competition, that diversity of thought and capability can overcome challenges that would defeat any single approach. As the combined fleet began its journey back to their respective territories, Marcus reflected on the strange chain of events that had brought them to this point. A simple meal choice had triggered predatory instincts, which had led to cultural exchange, which had resulted in first contact with a new species, which had ultimately created an unprecedented alliance for exploration and discovery. He realized that this was perhaps the most human response possible to an unexpected situation, turning a potential conflict into an opportunity for understanding, and transforming understanding into the foundation for something entirely new. The galaxy was about to become a much more interesting place, and humanity would face the future not as solitary explorers, but as part of a partnership that combined the best qualities of three very different but complementary species. The blood from his lunch had indeed been detected by predatory senses, but instead of triggering a hunt, it had begun a collaboration that would echo through the stars for generations to come.